Welcome to the show. My name is Charlton with Big C. This is Charlton and Big C Sports, coming to you worldwide on the Big C Sports Network, on the number one network in the United States of America. And Big C Sports has been voted the number one sports show in the universe, according to Big C. And them good old boys down south, I want to say bienvenidos to all of our listeners in Latin America, also across the pond, in London, England, as well as Paris, France. Of course, you good old boys in Canada. You know we love you in Africa, the Big C tribe. But there's no one we love more than the good old boys down south, in the land of the free and the home of the brave, on a beautiful March the 15th, 2019. Big C, how's it going for you good old boys down south?
Well, Charlton, I guess this would be hump day for the month because we're halfway through it and stuff. We're getting ready for, a little March Madness dance come on Sunday, and, we're looking at the free agency about to wind down to see what's left on the scrap heap.
Yeah.
And Major League Baseball, spring training's winding down, and Bryce Harper's already getting injured.
I guess what he did, slipped on a banana peel or something of that nature. I know he got the money now. Bryce is not dumb. Bryce said, look, I get a lot of this money guaranteed whether I play or not. May as well fake the funk a little bit. Everything's going on in the sports universe. We have from golf that's happening down in Florida. It seems like everybody golfs in Florida. And then we have this thing called March Madness. Really get started on Sunday, but tournaments are happening right now. Big C selection committees. Still some action that's going on in football and deciding who's going to go where. I always think it's funny when people make a big to-do about who's signing with whom. If they didn't win a championship last year, how are they going to make your team any better? I want to say today's show is sponsored by your Northern California Cadillac dealers, home of the all-new Cadillac Escalade, the standard of the world. And when you go by and test drive yours, tell them Charlton and Big C sent you. Big C, I know this is a great time of year. It's starting to turn into spring. Everybody in California is blooming. We've gone from rain, to the sunshine, and then in the Midwest, I know there were some flights that were delayed out of Denver yesterday. A lot of weather still all over the country. It's a little bit fickle. Cold and freezing, snow in some parts, hot and sunshine in others. How's it going for you good old boys down south, Big C?
Well, what did you think the words March Madness meant, Charlton? They were talking about the weather.
Yeah.
I mean, last night here, Charlton, we had a deluge of rain. It rained most of the day. There were tornado warnings north of us last night, Charlton, with hailstorms going on and everything. I mean, everybody's being battered with the weather right now, Charlton. But, the great thing is that you can look out the window and still see it. That's the wonderful thing about waking up in the morning, Charlton. You can deal with misery after that.
Yeah, you can definitely deal with it. And I know that everybody wants to find a way to just stay happy in this. There's so much going on. We've had the thing out in Northern California, Black Lives Matter, a kid, a verdict coming in being shot 22 times, law enforcement. We still say, no matter how painful that it is, if you just obey the law, and when they say stop, stop, and don't take off running. So that's the message. There's still a lot of marches going on over that. I know the Me Too movement is all in full force, Big C. A lot of people putting their hat in the ring to run for president of the United States. But I still think for a day like this, I know you play golf. I know you're a big golf advocate, Big C, and we know that everybody loves what's going on in the golf universe. But down in Florida, I know that when we have some of the big tournaments going on, everybody wants to know what Tiger Woods is doing. But I know this tournament, it brings out the best in everybody. Not only does it bring out the best in the golf world, we have Fleetwood. He's first place right now. He's 12 under. But Tiger was still at 38. He's -3 for the day, so he's going to make the cut. But I still don't feel that push that I want to feel. I want to feel it, Big C, but I don't feel it yet. Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, like I said, Tiger to be more competitive, he has to play more consistently. And he's not playing enough tournaments. He's not getting enough rounds of competitive golf in, Charlton. Having a triple bogey today, Charlton, on the 17th to really take him out of the running, Charlton, for an opportunity to win this tournament. That's Tiger. I mean, lack of concentration in anything. I mean, you can't sit out of a sport for a length of time, Charlton, and ever think you can come back and be on the top of your game. You know, with the multiple surgeries that Tiger has had over the past several years, Charlton, that takes its toll on the body. I know every time I've had a surgery, you're never going to come back 100%. You might talk about that you're pain-free, but you still don't have the muscle control that you had once before.
Well, I wish there was a medicine that could make us pain-free. I haven't discovered
CBD,
that yet.
Charlton, CBD.
Oh, you know, I keep hearing that, and not even being flippant. I meet so many MMA guys. You know how we always talk, Big C, about the CTE issue, and they talk about NFL players. It's always about NFL players. No one does the issue on, you know, concussion issues if it's a boxer, or especially MMA guys. When MMA guys get kicked in the head, there's nothing there but a foot. At least a football player has a helmet on. So I know that issue is going to be more and more talked about. And even for golfers that have a hard time walking around, that's something that helps them too. But just back down to the leaderboard at this course down in Florida, I just feel that this is a big push into the Masters. We know that a lot of people are going to be paying attention to it. And I just want to feel that if Tiger Woods is not in, I know he's making the cut, obviously, but if he's not in contention on a Saturday, do they lose a lot? Because Ncaa tournament is coming out on Sunday, and that's competing directly with the golf. Your thoughts, Big C?
Well, Charlton, you know, everybody's going to be watching the tournaments on Saturday and Sunday. That is the number one push in television ratings, Charlton, at this time of year, the middle of March, every year. Because bracketology is going to come out on Sunday, and we're going to find out all the teams, Charlton, that have punched their ticket to the big dance. We have a lot of conference champions already, Charlton, that are already invited. But this is about the seeding that's going to occur on Sunday. And regardless of who's in the leaderboard on the golf, Charlton, you got to look at how big college basketball is in this country. Golf is a regional game, Charlton, and a niche fit viewing audience. Basketball encumbers everybody, Charlton, men, women, children, everybody. You know, you think about the alumnus from all these universities, and there's going to be some 65 teams, Charlton, that's in the tournament. So this is going to have a grandiose stage, Charlton, when it comes Saturday and Sunday, about who's going to be, you know, having a chance to cut down the nets.
You know how I still go back to the time when you talked about the CBD, and again, I think it's going to be a household name. Probably, but by next year, it's already kind of a household name now, Big C. But when Tiger was having his back issues and the surgery, and people were saying, well, golf has dropped off some. I even heard some knuckleheads saying that we really don't need Tiger. There's a lot of good young players. I don't believe that. You let McIlroy at 12 under and, you know, tied for first, right around tied for first. It's always going to change going into the weekend. But McIlroy, he's a TV guy, a TV favorite, a household name. But it's amazing how he doesn't move the needle when it comes to whether he's competing or in 30th place or second or third place. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, he has to gain more consistency in his game. You know, he was thought to be the heir apparent to Tiger Woods, Charlton, but he has just not been able to hold that mantle. You have got golfers like Dustin Johnson, who has been number one in the world, Justin Rose, Charlton, who has won several tournaments. McIlroy, you know, has stayed in the spotlight, but he hasn't delivered. You know, he's a lot like Ricky Fowler. You know, a lot expected of young golfers, Charlton, but haven't been able to hold that grand stage.
Even the great Sergio Garcia, you know, he's not doing that great as well. He's -5, tied for 20th, but I want to see some of these big names come up there and make some noise coming into the weekend. But I also, when you think about golf and how important it is, I still think as a sport, they can do a lot more. I just don't know how they're going to build it around competing. The thing about March Madness, and we'll talk about that, Big C, you have small conferences, whether you're from the Big West and you're Gonzaga, whether you're from the Mountain West and you're Nevada, or whether you're, you know, Florida knocked off LSU today down in the SEC. If you're the Pac-12 and you're a Washington and maybe Arizona State, everyone has a chance to compete against somebody. In the ACC, you have Duke, and what they've done, they're always one of those blue blood programs. But golf has only like one guy, really. It's just Tiger Woods still. And I know that people don't want to hear that, but even here in California, he went to Stanford, and we know all the issues with the parents paying for kids to go to school there, but he still carries the mantle, and it would be a lot like Joe Montana still being the guy people want to hear about in sports. I think Tiger's still going to win again, but I still think that's an issue with the world of golf, where you can have some great tournaments, great weather, but really, there's not a lot of buzz around what they manufacture on TV. Your thoughts, and we'll get on to another thought I want to ask you about.
Well, you also got to look at Phil Mickelson, Charlton, who's always, has the purse strings and heartstrings of the golf universe, Charlton. The competitiveness between he and Tiger over the past couple of decades, Charlton, has always been in the forefront of golf. I mean, there are elder statements out there on the PGA Tour.
Yeah.
And when either one of those guys are relevant, Charlton, it makes golf good because it makes people reminisce back, when everybody was competitive and you knew who the guys were on the big stage. And Phil right now moves the needle just as much as Tiger does.
Yeah, and that's hopefully, I mean, we're older guys, Big C, so to the young people, they may look at them like, who's Magic Johnson? I was talking to a young kid today about how great, LeBron is and how great Jordan was, and people still don't realize that Magic Johnson played every position in the playoff game for the Lakers. That's how great he was. Was he LeBron James? No, but I doubt if LeBron can play every position on the floor, Big C. So we'll see how that all comes together. I want to just get your thoughts on something. If you go back to how dominant the sports world is, I think about we got to keep the fans at bay. We got to keep people respecting when they go into someone's home. If someone comes to your house, Big C, and they're calling you blippity blip and blankety blank and blank blank this and you blank blank that, how long do they get to stay before they're tossed out? Big C, your thoughts?
Well, first they're going to get tased before they sleep. So it'll be easy to get them out the door.
Yeah.
But, I mean, it's all it depends on how long it takes me to get to the taser.
Yeah, okay. So, with that being said, because I still want to make this defense, and maybe I might be the only one, but I think if you're a guy like Westbrook, let's say if it's Larry Bird from when he played back in the day, let's say if it was Goodrich back in the day, anybody, Magic Johnson, Kareem, these guys, in order to make a living, they have to go to the gym. They got to go to the gym, and that's where they play. So when someone comes into your house, they're supposed to abide by your rules. I appreciate what happened with the Jazz organization today. General Manager Dennis Lindsey said the Jazz would respond to the Russell Westbrook incident. Also went on to say, this is important, that mainstream, white Americans need to take a look at themselves too, because oftentimes it gets a pass, and this guy was so brazen, he took his incendiary racism into a sports arena, and he felt that he could get away with it, and for a while he did because he got the player fined. Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, not only that, Jazz owner Gail Miller delivered a message to the fans after the Russell Westbrook incident. And she stated to the fans that we're not racist. Now, you think about that remark coming from an owner, Charlton.
Yeah.
Why would you say we're not racist if that's not in the forefront of your mind of what you are? You don't have to announce what you're not to the public. You don't even have to announce what you're not to the arena. It was almost like a black player walking out there saying, I'm not black.
Yeah.
I'm not African American. That's the same connotation that has, Charlton.
Yeah.
But for the owner of a team in the most racially insensitive city in all of the NBA, Charlton, to stand up and say that we're not racist, she has to have some thoughts of that in her own mind, Charlton. That's how she looks at things, and she knows being in the state of Utah, that's how people in Utah look at things.
Yeah.
But you don't make that statement, Charlton, unless you have feelings of that within your own self. And I'm not attacking her. I'm praising her for making the statement.
Yeah.
But to make that statement, Charlton, you have to have some carnal knowledge of this, Charlton.
Yeah.
You have to have some cognitive feelings of yourself being that way. Not addressing just others, but say, how do I look at myself in this issue?
Yeah.
I condone this because I've allowed this to go on as long as we've owned the team.
Yeah.
We've heard these racist chants in the arena, and now I'm going to address the fans to say that we're not racist after hearing this for decades in Utah?
Yeah. Well, I want to look at two sides, because there's no perfect person in our society, and sometimes we can look at anything.
Look, I need to get on that voting list, all right?
Yeah, you can get on that voting list, Big C. I do applaud her for doing what many white Americans will never do. And I know people might be offended when I say this, but the only reason that racism exists is because it's been acceptable by white society. That's the only reason. So when someone comes out and says, well, we're not racist, well, if that's the only time we hear about it when you have an incident, they got to be proactive, and it starts in the home, and you can't legislate what people do in the home. And that's what but I applaud her for even doing that, because a lot of people, like, look at the White House. They say nothing. They back down, don't apologize for nothing. Contrast her, Big C, to at least what you don't hear out of Washington, D.C., Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, you got to realize this is somebody who voted for the person that's in Washington, D.C., Charlton. So they have a kinship as far as their thought process of supremacy, Charlton. When you look at it, you're entitled because you own an NBA franchise. You are a billionaire, Charlton. So not much affects you. This is just like Robert Kraft being down at a massage parlor / prostitution ring in Florida.
Yeah.
And now, everybody's wanting to put on a pity party for it, Charlton. But this is what this owner of the Utah Jazz is seeking. I'm seeking sympathy for myself.
Yeah.
I'm the rich owner of the Jazz, and I got to tell our fans that we're not racist, even though they've spewed these racial epithets ever since I've owned the team, and I've never stood up on the stage. Now that social media is out, Charlton, and everybody has a cell phone that is a production studio, and so you can shoot this production at courtside at the arena. Oh, well, maybe I need to try to get behind this and address it and say, this is not how we've operated in Utah in the past. This is something new. That fan, the reason why they did that with Russell Westbrook, Charlton, he felt entitled because he's done it before. Matter of fact, the owner was addressing an issue that happened in 2018 where a fan had called Russell Westbrook a boy in the arena. So these racial dog whistles have always gone on in Utah. And she didn't address it back in 2018, Dalton. Why is she addressing it in 2019?
Yeah, and that's the thing. Now, we would be lying as African-American men. We haven't heard those incendiary remarks, even from grade school. I remember being called the N-word by a teacher when I was in the first grade. I'll never forget it. Mrs. Scott, I won't forget her name. But at the same time, everybody has to overcome things because you can't let words break you. I do want to defend a player. And just remember earlier, I think it was earlier this week, this player, we heard his coach saying, we lip reading, Big C. I know how to lip read. I don't know if you do. But we heard Steve Kerr for Golden State saying in reference to Draymond Green, I'm so tired of Draymond Green, blippity blip, blippity blip. Well, Golden State Warriors forward, Draymond Green, he believes that fans often cross the line too when dealing with players and doesn't think it's going to get any better as long as the NBA continues to find the players for verbally defending themselves. Now, I agree with Draymond Green because we have freedom of speech. So he knows what it's like to be ridiculed for saying things that people want to hear. That's why Kerr had the lip read thing about him. So Draymond understands it. And I don't think you should get fined for defending yourself. I think I agree with Draymond on that. Your thoughts?
Well, Draymond listens to us, Charlton. We've been talking about this all week. Is that Adam Silver's wrong?
He is.
Players defending themselves and standing up for their rights, Charlton. Because if you, as I stated, if you walk into a restaurant and you racially blast somebody in a restaurant, Charlton, you're going to be kicked off the premises, Charlton. You're not going to be served. They're not going to punish that waitress or waiter in the restaurant, Charlton, for your tirade. You go to an airport, Charlton, and you have a tirade in an airport. They're not going to punish that airline agent, Charlton, for your tirade. They're not going to let you get on the plane. This happens anywhere, Charlton. You walk into a school and verbally assault a teacher like that, Charlton, as a parent, as an adult.
Can't do it.
Even as a student, Charlton. You're going to be escorted off the facility, Charlton, most likely in handcuffs. Black men are the only men, Charlton, in America that can be verbally berated anywhere and no charges brought against the person that's doing it, Charlton. And especially at work in these sporting arenas, Charlton. Yes, you're a fan. Yes, you paid for a ticket. But when you go to a restaurant, don't you pay for the meal, Charlton? When you catch a flight at an airport, don't you pay for that airline ticket? They can kick you off the plane, Charlton, if you're disruptive.
That's a good
point.
Here
it is because black men are working. And you're saying that, well, they can be verbally abused because that's what's happened throughout the history of America since slavery. They've been verbally abused, and they should have a tougher and thick enough skin to accept it by now. This is no different from when slavery was there and you could verbally abuse somebody.
Yeah.
This is no different than after slavery when you could verbally abuse somebody, Charlton. This is no different than the 40s, 50s, and 60s.
Yeah.
When you could verbally abuse somebody. So why are you guys being sensitive now? That's what they're saying. And the commissioner's even saying that, Charlton.
Yeah.
When he wants to find an African-American player because he responded to a racial rant from a fan.
Yeah.
Instead of that fan being arrested at the arena, Charlton,
Yep.
by the owner, the NBA should have in place, the NFL should have in place, Major League Baseball should have in place. You buy a ticket.
Yeah.
You didn't buy the right to verbally abuse a fan with a player with profanities, Charlton.
I agree.
And if you do that, then you should be arrested. That should be a rule, Charlton, in all 4 major leagues here in the United States.
You know, and I want you just open my mind to something. And again, for Silva, it's okay. You take the high road, but when you're wrong, you got to say you're wrong. Because Jackie Robinson went through the same garbage. And everyone told Jackie, shut up, don't retaliate, let these bigots be bigots. Okay, they're doing the same thing to Russell Westbrook. He did not go into the stands. He has a right to verbally defend himself, Big C. And you brought up this point, and for every athlete that travels, I know a lot of them, they fly on their own, chartered planes, they're not there with the public. But when you fly commercial anywhere, you go on vacation, anyone listening anywhere in the universe, get on an airplane. I'm not advocating do it, but I'm saying if you did it, start cussing out the flight attendants. Start banging on the door, and do you think they let you stay on that plane, especially if the flight attendant defended him or herself? Especially the pilots, if they use some terse words to say you're going to get the blankety blank. What does Sam Jackson say? Get these blankety blanks off this blankety blank plane. You don't find the flight attendant. You don't find the pilot. I've seen them remove people from a plane because you don't buy a ticket to assault people. And I just think it's a bad mark that Westbrook got fined for putting up with what Jackie Robinson had to put up with 50 years ago. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, most planes even fly with air marshals. That you have armed police on planes, Charlton, and so they're there to protect the public from those type of situations, Charlton.
Yeah.
But as athletes, regardless of how much an athlete makes, you think about a CEO of a corporation in America, Charlton.
Yeah.
The president of a bank or anything, Charlton. If someone goes into a bank and throws a verbal tirade, Charlton, in a bank. Most banks have security outside now, Charlton, or inside the bank.
They do.
What is that security officer going to do? They're going to say, well, maybe we should fire the person here in the bank or suspend the person for a day without pay here in the bank because that patriot got upset with him, Charlton.
Right.
Professional sports and black athletes, Charlton, over the history of professional sports, have been the ones that had to deal with this, even on the college level, Charlton.
Yeah.
If you polled NBA players, Charlton, over the last 30 years and ask them all, what's the most racial, abusive city in the NBA, Charlton?
Yeah.
Number 1, you're going to come up with Utah.
Yeah.
Number 1, you're going to come up to Utah.
In Salt Lake City,
it's going to be unanimous number 1. You're going to have some East Coast cities and Midwest cities up there, Charlton.
Yeah.
But Utah is going to be number 1 because you have an entire state, Charlton. It's only 1% of its population is African American.
Yeah.
So this is a state of entitlement and white supremacy, Charlton.
Yeah, and I agree. So again, if black men don't defend up, because I gotta say this again, black boys are 10 times more likely than white boys to be expelled from school for the same behavior. I gotta say this because Russell Westbrook doesn't have a criminal record. He doesn't have a criminal past. He went to UCLA, never been in any kind of trouble. I just don't want to see it happen to some guy who did nothing other than defend himself. And if you look at...
Charlton, think about this. Compare this to this college cheating scandal that's going on.
Yeah.
If it hadn't been black, affluent parents paying to get their kids into college, what would be the racial outcry in this country?
This
thing would have gone apoplectic, Charlton, as far as coverage as it's gone.
Yeah.
I mean, as big an atrocity that's been occurred with these affluent white families, Charlton, and over 33 parents have been charged thus far.
Yeah.
Thus far. And the reason why this broke, Charlton, is because the FBI was investigating insider trading on Wall Street by a white male, Charlton.
Yeah.
Not a black male, but a white male, Charlton.
Yeah.
And because they had got him, Charlton, on insider trading, he looked to cut a deal in turning other people over.
Yeah.
By doing insider trading on Wall Street, the same thing Martha Stewart went to prison for, okay?
Yeah.
is that he turned over the Yale's soccer coach, Charlton, that she took a bribe from him.
Yeah.
To get his daughter into Yale on the soccer team, Charlton.
Yeah.
May not be a good athlete, but he gave her hundreds of thousands of dollars, Charlton, to get his daughter into Yale. Now, think if that was a black family, Charlton, giving hundreds of thousands of dollars to get their child into a prestigious university.
Yeah.
People would have said, what, affirmative action wasn't enough for you people?
Yeah.
Now you got to bribe people? So think about this. It's not hitting the airwaves as hard as it should, Charlton.
No, it's not.
How egregious this is. Because kids, all nationalities, white, black, Hispanic, Asian, Indian, Charlton, all nationalities in America, whose children study day in and night, to keep their GPAs above a 4, Charlton, to be on honor rolls in high school, to get high scores on SAT tests, Charlton, and yet you're some affluent white family that can go out and afford to pay $10, $50, $200,000 to get your kids into college, paying somebody to do the SAT and ACT test for them, Charlton, and then pay for admissions?
Well, I think that's so important that we bring it up. And I'm just going to say one more thing about Westbrook, because I know other people won't defend a black man. Imagine if Jackie Robinson was fined for defending himself and his family when he was going through his garbage. There's the same parallel with Westbrook and Jackie Robinson. Why would you have to pay money when you defend yourself? I don't understand it. Big C, on this date.
Well, think about what Wilt Chamberlain went through, Charlton, being in the NBA, being as dominant a player as he was in his career against white players. Bill Russell the same way, Charlton, constantly winning NBA titles. And these two men setting all the records as far as winning championships, as far as scoring and rebounding. Think about the racial epithets that they had to deal with, Charlton. There wasn't many blacks in the NBA arenas in those days. And when you think about the whites who sit there courtside close to the players, Charlton, yelling at players, spitting on players, threatening players, Charlton, these are what black athletes have always had to go through, Charlton, since they played professional and college athletics. And it still resonates today in 2019. You would think that as a country, that this would not be going on, and the leagues would intervene in this, Charlton.
Yeah, you got to intervene and stop punishing the players. On this date, just think about the story with Westbrook, and then the ownership of the Jazz, making some statements today to show some contrition, but it could have been done a long time ago. On this date, Black History, 1827, the Freedom Journal, the first African-American newspaper in America. It was published by John Wasserman and Samuel Cornish. Now, that's freedom of the press. We got to protect the press. But just think about in 1827 what life was like in media for people of color. And to go to 2019, and a man is fined, you can say $25,000, nothing to a rich guy, but drop $25,000 on the floor at the gas station and see if people don't rush to pick it up. That's still a lot of money for defending his family. He didn't go into the stands. Russell Westbrook didn't have the social garbage on his media. So the guy was found guilty. His rights taken away to attend their games, and the commissioner comes in and finds Westbrook anyway. You see, that doesn't make any sense. Give me your thoughts on 1827, the first African-American newspaper. Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, it gave African-Americans a voice. It showed the intelligence of African-Americans, Charlton, that not only could they read and write, but they could print what others wanted to read, Charlton. It showed the salientness of the intelligence of a culture, Charlton, and when given opportunity that it could rise to any height. And to be able to have a publication, Charlton, at that time that was solely African-American in this country, Charlton, was a marvelous feat of ingenuity.
Let me ask you a thought, because this is important. I think Big C Sports is the only sports program in the universe that will really give equal time to African Americans and other people of color. We love our mainstream brethren too, but we know they can look anywhere and find people who look like themselves. Give me a thought, because that newspaper 1827, what was your feeling? How did you feel the very first time you saw an article on yourself in the newspaper, whether it's high school, college, or pro, how that felt? And on top of that, was it accurate reporting, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, the first true article, I mean, we have news clips when we're in high school, and they just put one or two lines on it. Well, when I was in college, Charlton, when I had the opportunity to be interviewed one-on-one.
Yeah.
That was one of the greatest feelings, to see my words put into print, Charles. Not just that I could read, but others could read, to get a personal imprint of me.
Yeah.
To see that I was a man that had intelligence, knowledge of what I spoke.
Yeah.
And I spoke clearly. And my words were not misinterpreted by the sports writer, Charles. So those are the things that gives great precedence to what a person is.
Yeah.
We see so much now in print, in the internet, Charlton, people throwing up thoughts. But back then, when newspapers meant something, Charlton, years ago, when black and white is what you saw.
Yeah.
We didn't have the internet at that time, Charlton.
Yeah.
You either saw it on television, you heard it on radio, and most people read it in the newspaper because you knew if you read something in the newspaper, Charlton, you were getting the whole story. And I still have those articles, and I'm very proud of them.
Yeah, it's amazing. So I know a lot of people don't read any more newspapers. They go to the internet and they'll read something in social media. But I think the first time I ever saw myself in a paper, it was a punt, pass, and kick competition. As a young 12-year-old boy, it made me really proud. I wish I had kept that article. But a lot of people, it's important because oftentimes as African-American, we don't get our news from African-American sources. They come from mainstream, and oftentimes mainstream will tell you and depict you the way they see you. We know you have to have equal time. That's one thing I'm really proud about with Big C Sports. Anyone listening anywhere in the universe, what we say, we're not a monolithic group, but oftentimes we'll tell you things and insights into Black Americans' history that you'll never hear in other programs. I want to bring up this thing because I'm still I was having a conversation about Westbrook. But I want to bring in how it relates to other things. Harvard University, there's a tennis star named Mark Riddell. He was paid $10,000 for every SAT test that he took, for the parents who wanted to cheat in college admission scams. Now we know Kushner, I think his family paid $2.5 million to get him into an Ivy League school, and he has a White House security clearance from POTUS. So we know money buys you things. But give me this thing on these men who are growing up writing checks because they know it works. They know it works. At the same time, the Harvard University, there's a group of students at Harvard University that filed a lawsuit against affirmative actions at Harvard, Big C. They're not trying to sue white families. Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, that's where they need to change that lawsuit. Yeah, I mean, you think about how many students are at Harvard now, Charlton, because this tennis player, former Harvard tennis player, took the SAT test for their children, Charlton.
Yeah.
How many students have he got into Harvard, Charlton, with fake exams?
Wow.
Fraudulent paperwork, Charlton. You've committed a fraud to get into a major university. That means that some child that deserved to be in Harvard and many other Ivy League schools, Charlton, didn't get the admissions because someone cheated and someone went out and basically got a perfect score because, Charlton, he knew the test like the back of his hand.
Yeah.
And he lost count, Charlton, on how many tests he took. And he was getting 10 grand a shot. So he was taking hundreds of tests a year, Charlton.
Wow.
Hundreds of tests a year. So this man became a millionaire.
Yeah.
A former college tennis player became a millionaire, Charlton, taking tests to get children into school illegally, Charlton, into these prestigious Ivy League institutions. Think about if a black person, Charlton, was taking these tests. Now, think about this also with the IRS.
Yeah.
Anytime you do a transaction of more than $10,000, you're supposed to report it to the IRS, Charlton.
Yeah.
So not only is he in trouble with the FBI, he's in trouble with the IRS because I can guarantee you, Charlton, he wasn't reporting those $10,000 dividends to the IRS every time he got it.
I'm sure he did not do that, Big C. And so everybody understands I'm very sensitive because when I went to college, I want to say I went to because of affirmative action, because of the college that I attended, prior to civil rights, it was a segregated college. So civil rights opened up opportunities for people of color to go to any college we choose. So every black American, whether you think you had the GPA or not, through Jim Crow, you weren't getting in. So don't tell me you got that based on your grades. You got that because people marched and they spoke out against discrimination. That's why. It wasn't because your GPA. It's because the laws were changed, not because people wanted it to, but people fought for it. When you want something, you fight for it. Now contrast that in the Westbrook situation, doing nothing wrong but defending himself, to the sympathy that's getting by one of America's greatest sports icons. That's Robert Kraft. there's still this issue, and we're going to talk about a few things that are kind of poignant and maybe even macabre, but it's just real talk, so I want to bring it to the conscience of the people. Why is there such sympathy, this pity party, for Bob Kraft, saying that he was kind of wayward after his loss of his late wife, to cancer, and again, our thoughts and prayers with that. But it didn't stop him from having a 28-year-old live-in girlfriend, as well as the soliciting of prostitution. Now, he's getting the sympathy treatment. I know he was accused of a misdemeanor, which some people contribute that with a felony when the people are held against their will, and that's what happens at massage parlors. No one's going in there because they want to be there. They're trapping those girls in there. Why the pushback on calling that what it is? Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, because of Robert Kraft, and just like you said, everyone said, well, he was wayward and a loss because of his late wife, Myra Kraft, Charlton, that he had been with for decades. And everyone's empathy goes out to someone who has lost someone, Charlton, to that horrific disease called cancer.
Yes.
But he had gathered himself, Charlton. He has a 28-year-old, 6'2" supermodel girlfriend that lives with him. So I'm trying to find out where was he lost and wayward at, Charlton. Okay, he had no problem moving somebody in within a short time after his wife's death, Charlton.
Yeah.
That's younger than his children.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
His son's wives are older than his girlfriend.
Yep. Well,
but
it's
that
all
wasn't
fair.
enough, Charlton. He said, okay, I'm not satisfied with a 6'2", 28-year-old supermodel.
Yeah.
Let me go down here to these dingy massage parlors slash sex dungeons, Charlton, where they have these women in entrapment.
Yeah.
I think what Robert Kraft was looking for was empowerment, Charlton, that somebody could not say no to him.
Yeah.
Because you go into these places, and the owner of this parlor, Charlton, is good friends with the president.
Yeah.
You go on the internet. There's pictures of her with the president, Charlton, in fundraisers, and she donated $50,000 to his campaign.
Yeah.
So you cannot indict a sitting president, Charlton, for visiting the massage parlors.
No, you can't.
But you can indict his friends, Charlton.
Yeah.
And his friend got a simple misdemeanor, Charlton, and his friend will not do any time.
Right.
He will get a suspended sentence, Charlton. He will get 3 months probation at the most, and he'll get, 40 hours of community service.
Wow.
That's what he will get as a sentence on this thing, Charlton. Robert Kraft won't do any time. But everybody wants to walk around, how could this happen to Robert Kraft? Well, his Bentley forced him to go there, Charlton.
Well, he had,
it was a self-driving Bentley that he had put in the wrong GPS direction to, and it went back to the same place on consecutive days.
Well, I've heard that.
And he was forced to get out the car, just to go say, I didn't mean to park in this parking space. Yeah,
and I mean, I want to tie this together because one side of our society gets sympathy, the other side gets fined. I want to say sports is a billion-dollar industry, and boys and girls sports is the foundation to this billion-dollar industry. For every athletic and sporting event, you need athletic and event insurance. We work with Ben and Mark. They've been around half a century. They work with Big C Sports. Whether you're a pro team, a collegiate team, a high school team, or your mom and pop soccer league, when you reach out to them, let them know that Big C sent you. Okay, we talked about the Kraft situation, and there's a lot of sympathy. Now, imagine, that's an oxymoron. Having sympathy for a billionaire who can buy what he wants, even if it's illegal. The day that happened, we know that they went on to play in Kansas City against the Chiefs, and they ended up winning that game. And now I'm starting to find out maybe why there's some turmoil in Kansas City that Andy Reid will never come under fire for, like people are throwing darts over in Pittsburgh at Tomlin. Well, Commissioner Roger Goodell handed down an 8-game suspension for Cleveland Browns running back Kareem Hunt, who was fired from Kansas City right around that same time because he struck a woman. Okay? Now think about this. I'm not stretching, Big C. You get fired for striking a woman, which you should never hit a woman. But when you're participating in the entrapment of young minors, I don't know if they're minors or not, whoever they hired at that massage parlor, they didn't have any power.
Well, think about this, Charlton. They're trying to say that the woman that Robert Kraft visited on 2 consecutive days was a 44-year-old that was working in there.
Right.
That this act was performed with. Now, I have a hard time believing that he's going in to visit a 44-year-old, Charlton, because this is a man that wants to feel empowered, okay?
Yeah.
That's the reason why he has a 28-year-old, 6'2" supermodel.
Yeah.
Because he's empowered and she has no better option than him. because his looks are everything, okay?
Yeah, right.
And so him going into a massage parlor, Charlton, said, no, I want the old veteran. Now, what do NFL teams do to old veterans, Charlton?
I think they sign them to another contract, or would I be wrong?
No, they cut them. They release them. They don't want anything to do with it.
So you said I'm naive, Big C. You trying to say I'm naive?
They're looking for the new, young, upstart person, Charlton.
Yeah.
That's what they're doing. That's what the draft is.
Yeah.
They're replenishing their team with the younger players, Charlton.
Yeah.
That's the same thing he's going into the massage parlor for, Charlton. He's not looking for that old veteran that's out the door.
Right.
That has no more gas in the tank.
Right.
He's looking for that young one, Charlton.
Well, let me ask
That's the reason why he's at the massage parlor.
Now, let me ask you this question, because there's another issue around what happened with Kareem Hunt. He lost his job. In fact, he lost his job as soon. This is not true. They knew what he had done. They said he lied about it, but they had the same tape that everybody else saw. And when it came public, then they fired him, okay, for doing something that's wrong. Okay, it's wrong, but it's not illegal. Fighting is not illegal. Now, it could be a crime, you can be prosecuted, but it is not against the law to fight someone. It's against the law to engage in what Kraft did. So why is Kraft getting this, we're so sorry, and he didn't know what he was doing, but other men lose their jobs on the spot? Big C, your thoughts?
Well, when you think about what Kareem Hunt lost out of this situation, Charlton, he lost the part of the last season. He lost, and he's going to be suspended 8 games this year.
Yeah.
So it's a total of 13 games that he is losing.
Yeah.
Robert Kraft will not get a 13-game suspension. He should get the entire season suspension from the NFL, Charlton.
Yeah.
But Kareem Hunt has 13 games.
Yeah.
Ray Rice lost his career, Charlton.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
Alden Smith has been suspended forever, Charlton, from the NFL.
Yeah.
So when you think about that, and none of these men were engaging in sex trafficking trade, Charlton.
And that's the key
They were
word.
not.
That's
none
the key
of those players were engaging in sex trafficking trade.
Yep.
Here's the owner of a team, Charlton, engaging one of the most horrific states that you can be in, Charlton, sex trafficking.
Yeah.
Forcing young women into a business that they don't want to be in, Charlton.
Yep.
That they have no options because you brought them from a foreign land.
Yeah.
And brought them here.
Yeah.
And forced them to be in this. Who knows what they were forced and what threats were made upon them, Charlton. But they were, Robert Kraft is basically aiding and abetting sex trafficking, Charlton. That's what he was doing. He was aiding and abetting sex trafficking. Go back to former New York Mayor Elliot
Spitzer, yeah.
He was, he was fired from the job of being the mayor, Charlton.
Yeah.
Once they found out he was engaging in prostitution.
Yep.
And he was gone.
Now,
he had to.
Go ahead.
He was kicked out of the mayor's office in New York.
Yep, he was.
And here's Robert Kraft doing the same thing.
Yeah.
Going out paying in a parlor where they're housing underage girls, Charlton.
Yeah.
Girls that are entrapped and in prison. They are forced into this business, Charlton.
Yep.
Robert Kraft went in willingly. He wasn't forced in.
On more than one occasion. So I want people to keep that in mind. There's one more story I want to cover on this because it all ties into Kansas City. Today came out, Kansas City Chiefs, Tyreek Hill, under investigation for a battery charge at his home. Same man in 2014 was arrested, pled guilty to choking and pushing or punching his pregnant girlfriend at the time, who is now, they're in a committed relationship now. So people can make amends. What happened to Love and War, I'll never understand it. But they've just taken it under investigation right now, Big C. But there wouldn't. Just imagine if a player were caught in that situation, where Colin Kaepernick can't even get a job from this league, okay? But you have owners doing things that's illegal. You have players involved with punching, their spouse, etc., and they're still making Kraft situations seem like it's less painful than these gentlemen. I don't know what happened with Tyreek Hill. It's still under investigation, but I do know the gentleman that owned the L.A. Clippers when it was brought to the public. Sterling, when it was brought to the public. Did they suspend him, Big C? Did they give him a couple of games off? What happened to him, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, they forced him to sell the team. Not only, look at that. Look at Jerry Richards, who just had to sell the Carolina Panthers last year, Charlton, for sexual misconduct within the organization.
Yep.
He had to sell a football team. And so how will the league handle the Robert Kraft situation? in comparison with the Jerry Richardson situation, Jonathan, in Carolina, where he was forced out of ownership with the Carolina Panthers. How good a relationship will Robert Kraft have with the commissioner, Jonathan? Will that type of situation come out? No, it's not.
Wow.
They're going to be very lenient against Robert Kraft. They're going to turn the blind eye on this situation, and they're going to use the pity pass and the sympathy party, Jonathan, for him, because it's coming out already that he was a lost, wayward man because of the loss of his wife. The 28-year-old girlfriend wasn't distractive enough for him, Jonathan. He needed more adventure, okay?
Well, maybe
he was making up for lost time because he had been caring for his late ill wife.
Maybe
so the sympathy party will be out there for Robert Kraft. They will say everything that he has done positive in society. I know the situation you talk about with Kareem Hunt, the situation on the battery. He's with the same woman that he pled guilty to battering when he was in college at Oklahoma State.
Yeah, that's Tyreek Hill on that
They're
one.
still together today. So
Yeah.
there's a trail there.
Yeah.
I mean, this is what they're used to living in.
Yeah, and that's Tyreek Hill. And in fairness to Kraft, maybe when you found out that the 28-year-old girlfriend didn't love him, maybe he needed to console himself, Big C. But for people who take the fact that you can entrap women and there's trafficking issues that happens all over this country, a.k.a. Gloria Allred knows nothing about it. That's why she won't defend it, because...
You mean she hasn't gone down to Florida to defend these women in the massage parlor, Jonathan? Wow, I'm amazed that Gloria Allred would not run down to help out these women in plight, Jonathan, that's been held against their will in these horrific conditions in this massage parlor down in Florida, Jonathan, and go out to defend them, to sue an NFL owner. Deep pockets, Jonathan. That's what you normally chases.
Deeper pockets, but he has a wrong skin color for her to go after him, and we know that's a fact, too. So I just hope everybody, when you say you're against trafficking, you want to keep young girls safe, even if they're white men, you got to go after them with the same vitriol that you go after if the person was a person of color. Big C, I want to touch a little bit on what's happening in basketball, because I think it's very exciting. I know this weekend we're going to have, there's a lot of tournaments going on right now. You have that Florida knocked off LSU, so congratulations to Florida. There was people, LSU's been in some turmoil, so maybe, they'll still get into the tournament. But that's a big win by Florida, because at a time, they caught LSU at the right time. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, LSU had won the SEC regular season championship, Charlton, and they get into the tournament. And there were some tough calls late in the game, Charlton, where a couple of technical fouls were called on the LSU assistant coaches that was filling in for Coach Day, as well as a tough foul call that was made after a shot was taken already. Yeah. So they failed, Charlton, in this tournament, and I'm wondering how will bracketology look at them on Sunday, because they're going to be without their head coach, Charlton, and falling in the tournament. I don't see LSU being higher than a 4th or 5th seed just because of all the scandals with them, Charlton. Yeah, and when you think about it, I'm just glad to see that players, I know we disagree on this, Big C, you think the whole team should be punished, but I know if I'm with a group of guys and like the UCLA Georgia Tech game over in China, when someone took some sunglasses or whatever they took, I don't think you punish the whole team. You punish the guys that did wrong, not everybody. But I want to come back to the United States. But think about this when you say you don't punish the whole team, Jonathan. So why is it that the Ncaa puts teams on probation when the entire team, Jonathan, didn't participate in the illicit act that whatever occurred, Jonathan? And I think whenever there's a cheating scandal, Jonathan, when there's a payoff, when there's a grade situation, why does the whole team gets banished, Jonathan, from bowls for 2 or 3 years? Because that's wrong. The victories. Think about that. Every player is not involved, Jonathan. Exactly. But this has been the history of the Ncaa. Yeah. We can't let the kids go unhurt, Jonathan. What did USC get after your buddy Reggie Bush? They got banned for how long for bowls? Yeah, a couple of years for bowl games. They got bowl games. And the kids that they were recruiting, Jonathan, were not a part of that. I agree. They weren't living in that house that Reggie Bush's parents had received, Jonathan. They didn't get any of that money. I agree. But all the future recruits, Jonathan, over the next 3 years had to suffer for the pleasures that Reggie Bush had gotten. That's very true, and I disagree with everyone being punished when 1 or 2 people do something wrong. Imagine being in a car, someone's driving under the influence, and everyone gets a DUI, even in the passenger seat. Doesn't make any sense. Well, y'all to think about this. If that person will get in a DUI, what if he has an accident? Yep. Everybody's punished at that point, so you have to look at it from all perspectives. That's a very good point, too, Big C. Zion Williams returned to the lineup for Duke last night. Now, he hasn't missed a stride. He's about to set a record if he can keep scoring the way he is.
13 for 13 from the floor. It's as if he never was hurt in the first place, and maybe even foolishly, by being sidelined just for a couple of games, may have helped him keep his strength that he needs going into the tournament. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, he has fresh legs going into the tournament, and you think about it, they were in a hard-fought battle win last night over Syracuse.
Yep.
And he was 13 for 13 from the floor, Charlton. He actually outscored Syracuse in the paint 24-20.
Yeah.
He is a dominant inside presence, Charlton. He's made 19 of his last 19 shots. He's one away from the Duke all-time record, and he would break the record held by Abdul Abdelnaby, Charlton, back in the early 80s with Duke. And so this is a presence in college basketball. And by having him back in the lineup, Charlton, it will almost secure a number 1 seed come Sunday for the Duke Blue Devils.
Well, even if they get the number 2 seed, Big C, they're a lot to reckon with. You know, March Madness, this is turbulent time. You know, sometimes you fly in airports all over the country. I think the city with the worst turbulence is actually Denver. The airplane just bounces around there. But, you know, they've done it before. You just got to be calm going through it. But March Madness, with all the turbulence hitting the NCAA, with white parents paying for their kids to go to college that don't have the credibility or the grades for it, but the check clears and they get to go. Not everybody, but for the ones indicted, they're mostly white families. I don't know black families spending $100,000 to get their kids to pass some tests. March Madness beginning in earnest on Sunday. The coaching carousel in 2019, Big C, it's already in flux. 16 head coaches from Division I programs have been fired, and 3 have already resigned thus far. Welcome to March Madness, Big C. Your thoughts?
Yeah, Charlton, that's the true March Madness. Is that, hey, you didn't make the tournament, you might want to call a moving van.
It's me.
That's the real pink slip that's going out, Charlton, to these former coaches at these universities.
Yeah.
And you think about 19 coaches thus far, Charlton, are not employed from the previous season. So there's going to be a huge search out there, Charlton. And this is just the nail first dropping, Charlton. There's going to be at least a dozen more coaches, Charlton, that will be out of a job within the next month, Charlton. So there's going to be a huge search out there for college coaches, Charlton. And the biggest thing is how many African-American coaches, Charlton, will get an opportunity to fulfill some of these positions.
Maybe one, Big C, maybe one. Which teams thinking of being in this selection tournament? And I love March Madness. Outside of, I'm just being honest, I love sports. I love a lot of sports. I love college basketball when it comes to March Madness, even though I know they're not doing everything right with stealing money from the players. Just give me your thoughts. I know you're a Southern boy, so I might have to pay you $10,000 to get you to pick a West Coast team to even get into the tournament, Big C. Let me ask your thoughts, though. You think teams that might get a number 1 seed, just throwing out some names, Virginia perhaps, North Carolina, Kentucky, Duke, Gonzaga, I know they lost to St. Mary's, but I still think they should be a number 1 seed, or is that just my West Coast sympathy, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, no, Charlton, Gonzaga truly should be the number 1 seed in the West. I mean, when we think about bracketology, and they're going to be moving teams all over the country. And what's wrong about that, Charlton, is that teams should be regionalized. We're going to look at some arenas, Charlton, that will be half-baked. And what I mean by that will be half full.
Yeah.
Because you can't just fly all across the country, Charlton, chasing a team midweek to watch them play a Thursday game, Charlton, or a Saturday game.
Yeah.
So I think that Gonzaga truly should be the number 1 seed in the West, Charlton. You talked about Kentucky, North Carolina, Virginia.
Yeah.
Those are regional seedings, Charlton. When you look at the East, you got to look at either North Carolina or Virginia.
Yeah.
When you talk about number 1 seed in the East, because they're both on the Eastern Seaboard as well as Duke is.
Yeah.
Kentucky, I think about them as a mid-regional, Charlton, a Southern regional team, to be number 1 in that bracket. But even when you look at the Midwest, Charlton, regional, you got Kansas State out there. You have Texas Tech. You have teams that have dominated in their conference and can't even get a number 1 seed in their region.
Yeah, that's true. I still think Duke's looking very strong. I like Gonzaga getting at least in the final 8, Big C. Final 4 is a little bit difficult. But I want to say Nevada is my sleeper from the West to make a run at least to the Sweet 16. And I think Tennessee has a lot to prove. A lot of people thought they were overrated coming out of the SEC, but that's a team. It's kind of better when you lose some games before you get into the tournament than to get there trying to have a long win streak. That's just my opinion. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, Tennessee was number one in the country for about a month and a half, Charlton.
Yeah.
And then they had a tough hiccup there, and they lost 3 games out of a 7-game stretch, and they dropped in the rankings, just like Nevada did out there in the West, Charlton. But, you know, the thing about it, the NCAA is going to look at marketability as far as the number 1 seeds, trying to get those teams together, Charlton, to end up in the Final Four.
Yep.
It's not always having the best teams in the region, Charlton. It's about positioning for the money.
Yep, it's always about the money, Big C. Speaking of money, as we go to the NBA Eastern Conference, only Milwaukee and Toronto have clinched playoff spots. You know, Milwaukee's a dominant program. I know some people, I know you like them a lot. I'm not sold on them yet. I'm still looking at Toronto or Boston, maybe even Philly to come out of the East. But give me your thoughts on, do you really feel Milwaukee and Toronto are the top 2 teams? I know they have the best record, but we've seen that before, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, Milwaukee is legitimate, Charlton. They have depth, and they have a bench also. That's the key. And you got those young legs at this time of the year, Charlton. Milwaukee was just finding its stride last year.
Yeah.
And they've grown up this year, Charlton, to dominate the East, to be the top team. Everyone thought coming into the season that it would be the Sixers and the Celtics. That's what all the proponents were saying, Charlton. Lo and behold, Toronto stayed up at the top of the heat, Charlton, even after having a coaching change.
Yeah.
Milwaukee had a coaching change also, Charlton. And you think about how those 2 coaches, Charlton, have inspired those young lineups and kept them at the top of the heap.
Yeah.
I still like Milwaukee coming out of the East in the championship, Charlton.
Well, that's a very good team. Grando Deportes, Big C Sports. Espanol, Paquito, we love you in Latin America. Big C, the Sacramento Kings in a number 9 spot. I know they're having their hands full over in Philly tonight, but they've lost 5 games by 13 points combined to championship contenders Golden State on the road, Milwaukee at home, Denver on the road, Boston at home, and then they had a lead getaway in Boston, just last night. In 11 games, they're number 9 seed in the West. There's already talk about maybe getting rid of their head coach. Doesn't make any sense. As a team that was in the abyss, and now you're losing to teams that are playoff contenders, oftentimes by 1 possession. It doesn't make any sense that they would even be talking about letting their coach go. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, that's what happens in the NBA is lack of stability. That's the reason why teams don't make the playoffs. You have to learn how to work through fertility, Charlton, the battles that you're going to lose in these tight contests. You have to grow up. And when you have a young team and you have a coach that understands them, Charlton, you can't push them any further than what their talents are. The reason why they may be on the outside looking in, Charlton, because they are playing against those playoff teams, Charlton, and they're not ready for prime time yet. There's only going to be 8 teams from each division, Charlton, make the playoffs. So when you start getting rid of coaches, Charlton, because they brought you from the abyss and made you a challenging franchise, Charlton, that's not a potential for growth in the future.
No, and I think Coach Yeager's done a great job with the Sacramento Kings. They're just a year away. They had a kid get hurt in Bagley, a 19-year-old kid. Now he's just 20 years old. Just let that team stick together for another year. I think they'll be fine. Last night, Denver did something, and we called it. If you go back and listen to the show, we said it's going to be tough for them to beat Dallas because Dallas, for some reason, they can match up pretty well with them. And it came to the Joker making a basket that was not a joke in the final seconds to win that game. For a big guy, that was a nice move he had down there in the game to win it for Denver last night. Your thoughts?
Jokic is the most underrated superstar in the NBA.
Yeah.
If he was a black, Charlton, if he was a black basketball player, he'd be up for MVP battling.
I agree.
But no one knows where he is in Denver. And then when you look at the name and people are like, wow, you know what? He's not Durant. He's not Giannis. He's not LeBron. He's not Westbrook. He's not Harden.
Yeah.
But Charlton, he's second in the NBA in triple-doubles behind Westbrook.
Yeah.
He has Denver solidly in second position in the NBA West.
Yeah.
And like I said, if he was an African-American player, Charlton, he'd be one of the top 3 in MVP voting.
I agree. He would be a dominant player. Love the way he plays. As a young man, has a bright future ahead of him. Big C, I want to finish out tonight's schedule. You have the Los Angeles Lakers at Detroit, Sacramento at Philadelphia. These games are underway already. Charlotte at Washington, Milwaukee at Miami, which is a game that Miami could get because they're successful at home, but I think Milwaukee gets that one. And then Phoenix at Houston. Phoenix has knocked off everybody. Does Houston have jet lag from their loss to Golden State, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, they're going to have to get back on their winning path. I don't think that they're going to fall asleep on Phoenix like Golden State did last week, Charlton. Houston is a team that they're going to be a little hard-sprung from that loss to Golden State, and I think they'll take it out on this young and up-and-coming Phoenix team that just doesn't have enough talent to stay with them down the ropes. James Harden will go for 40 tonight, Charlton, against Phoenix.
Yeah, he's a dominant lights out. We know he's going to get around the 40-point mark. Portland at New Orleans, New York at San Antonio, Chicago at the Clippers. We know the Clippers are hanging on to that 8th spot, Big C, but they got some cushion. I think Doc Rivers, it's just my opinion, I think Doc Rivers would look better in purple and gold than red, white, and blue. Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, he loves the Clippers organization. He has some power with the Clippers organization. I don't think he's willing to give that power structure that he has with the Clippers up, Charlton, to move across to the other side of the arena in Staples Center, because they have the power play in place.
Yeah.
And that's a team that's dysfunctional. They don't match well personnel-wise with the Lakers, Charlton. This is a team, you got 3 point guards on, Charlton.
Yeah.
You got Rondo. You got Ball. You got LeBron James. Which point guard do you truly want?
Yeah.
You want LeBron James. And then you have nobody who can really knock it down from the outside, Charlton.
Yeah.
This is where that team is hurting. You don't have a 2 and a 3 that can shoot from the outside. Brandon Ingram can't put it up from the outside.
No.
Lance Steven has lost his shot. The ball can't shoot at all.
Yeah.
Rondo, you hold your breath. So they need to upgrade in some positions, Charlton, if the Lakers are ever going to be competitive.
Yeah.
James is not the problem. He's averaging almost a triple-double himself night in and night out.
Yeah, he's definitely doing this thing LeBron James is. I want to just touch on, in the final minute, Saturday's games. And there's a lot of typewriters going off because it's really going to determine what's happening in the West. I know Golden State needed to beat that team down in Houston. They had to get that win. The game on Saturday at OKC is the game of the week, and that's a 5:30 p.m. on ABC, and maybe Durant will play. I think he should at least suit up because you give that crowd to get frenzied up about about Durant, and maybe they don't focus so much on the real shooters on Golden State when Durant's not healthy. Give me the feel for that. I know we have a lot of big games on Saturday. Brooklyn at Utah, Indiana at Denver. That's a big game, Indiana at Denver. And Portland at San Antonio, Cleveland at Dallas, Phoenix, New Orleans, Memphis at Washington, and then Atlanta at Boston. But give me 2 games, Big C. I want to get your thoughts. Indiana at Denver, and then Golden State at OKC on this Saturday, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, Golden State is going to get their points, Charlton. You look at OKC's loss last night. Golden State knows it's imperative that they keep winning.
Yeah.
And they're going to keep the foot to the pedal, Charlton, and get to the finish line. But when I look at Denver, Charlton, this is a team that's in the chase. I see them, possibly meeting up with Golden State in the Western Conference Final. Everybody says there's going to be a rematch with Houston, Charlton. I don't think that Houston will be there, Charlton. I think they're going to get some injury, as they normally do, late in the playoff run, Charlton. And it's going to be Denver and Golden State for the Western Final.
It's sure looking like that now, Big C. Back in the day, there was a man by the name of Drew Bodini Brown. He was known as Muhammad Ali's right-hand man. He would always tell Ali, with all you got to use, how can you lose? Rumble, young men, rumble. Big C, what are you looking forward to in the sports universe?
Well, Charlton, there's going to be a lot of broken hearts come Sunday when selection committee makes their final tournament choices, Charlton. There's going to be some deserving teams that are left out. And that's always the sad part about March Madness. Even though it's a happy time for 64 teams, Charlton, there's going to be a dozen teams that are sitting on the bubble, and you're going to wonder why they didn't get in, and they have more than 20 wins on the regular season.
And if you want to follow all the real talk of the sports universe, follow Big C Sports every Monday through Friday at 5 and 6 p.m. worldwide. Follow Big C Sports on the Big C Sports Network, on the #1 network in the United States of America. And Big C Sports has been voted the #1 sports show in the universe, according to Big C and them good old boys down south. As we always tell you, there's never, ever an excuse for domestic violence. If you know any man or woman going through that garbage, please call 911, because no man or woman should ever have to go through that garbage on their own. As we always tell you on every Big C Sports show, we thank you, we appreciate you, and we hope that you have a super fantastic day.